So today we're going to continue our talk about text features. Before we were looking at text features that took up an entire page, so they weren't really part of the text, they were parts of the book. Today we're going to be looking at text features that we can find within the text. And just like we did in the last lesson, there is a companion, Google Slides that go with, that's why it's called a companion, they go together, that you are going to be filling out while you watch this video. So go ahead and get both of those things open so you can flip back and forth, or however works best for you. Go ahead and get that ready for today. Okay, let's get started. Today we're going to talk about a heading. So let's consider this page in our frog book. Our heading on this page indicates that a new broad section is being introduced. Super broad, all about frogs. It's not specific. I can't tell you exactly what we're going to learn about, except for that it's going to be about frogs. Sometimes you'll see that this font is larger. Sometimes it's a different color. Sometimes it's in bold. Sometimes it's underlined. They do lots of things to make sure that heading stands out. I want you to understand that a heading indicates that a new topic is being introduced, a new broad section, and that's going to be your first question. So if you would pause and go fill in the blanks in, a heading indicates that a new broad section is being introduced. When you type those words, they should be spelled correctly because they're right there. Okay. It tells the reader what the section is going to be about. What's your next question? Go answer that. And finally, your last question for this particular slide is, what is the heading on that page? We've talked about it. It's circled in red. There's a giant red arrow pointing to it. And it's spelled correctly on my page, so it should be on yours. Pause the video and go do that now. You're right. This section is called All About Frogs. Now let's talk about the subheadings that we see on this page. A subheading indicates that a new specific section is being introduced. So our broad topic is all about frogs. Now we're going to talk about the adaptability of frogs. And then we're going to talk about a frog's response to its environment. So a subheading indicates that a new specific section is being introduced. Pause and go fill in the blanks on your page. A subheading is just one section that addresses the topic introduced in the heading. So fill in that blank on your page. So how many subheadings are shown on this page? Go answer that question. There are two, adaptability and response to environment. I can tell because this font is larger than the font in the text, but not quite as large as the font on the heading. It's also in bold, just like the heading, but not like the text. This one happens to be the same color as the text. That's not always true, but it is a different color than the heading. Again, not always true, but it's one way you can tell the difference between a heading and a subheading. Adaptability and response to environment tell us all about frogs. This text is going to tell us just about the adaptability of frogs. This text is just going to tell us about the frog's response to its environment. So how can we tell the difference between a heading and a subheading? The next question on your companion is, how can you tell the difference? There are three ways I want to look at. First of all, a heading is written larger, while the subheadings are written smaller. They're both larger than the actual text, but the heading is larger even than the subheading. Pause and write that down for your number one. How can you tell the difference? Number two, the heading appears first and the subheadings follow. Your heading will always be the first thing that you see. Your subheadings will have to come underneath. Sub means under, okay? So, or or in this case, after. Okay, pause and write that as your second way you can tell the difference. And finally, the third way is the heading introduces a more general topic, while the subheadings introduce more specific topics that are related to the overall topic. So this text has to do with this subheading. This text has to do with this subheading. Both subheadings and all of its text have to do with all about frogs. Pause your video so you can copy this into your third way that you can tell the difference. All right, it says, can you help me out? I'm writing a research paper. Which of the following would be the best heading? Okay, Mount Rushmore, Old Faithful Geyser, American Landmarks, or the Grand Canyon? Well, if we're doing a research paper, Mount Rushmore is going to tell us about one mountain. The Old Faithful Geyser is going to tell us about one geyser. The Grand Canyon is going to tell us about one canyon. And American Landmarks could tell us about all three. So if the heading is supposed to be more general, which do you think it would be? American Landmarks, because it's the most general. So it must be the heading. The other three phrases are specific examples of American landmarks. So those will be really great subheadings to use. But the paper itself is going to be all about American landmarks. So that has to be your heading. Does that make sense? More specific are subheadings. More general are headings. Now let's talk about words actually in the text, not in front of or before, but in the text. We have these words that automatically look different. I believe that they're important because somebody has taken the time to make them darker than all of the words around them. We call that bold. They're often vocabulary words, and if I have a book with a glossary, these are often the words that can be found in the glossary. All right, take a second and let's look here. Bold words indicate what kind of words? Important. They are darker than the surrounding words in the text. They are often vocabulary words that can be found in the glossary. Pause this video and go fill in the blanks on your companion today. Now let's look at words in italics. Words also look different. In this case, they're a little bit bolded as well, but that's not all that makes them different. Words in italics indicate important information. These words are slanted. So the rest of the text is straight up and down, and these words are slightly slanted. Okay. These indicate important information. These words are slanted. Go fill in your companion. The author will do this with words when he wants you to remember that important information. And I'll give you a hint. When you are being asked questions about certain things in the text that you've read, sometimes looking for those words that look different will lead you to the answer. So if I'm going to be asked a question about frogs and how long they've been on Earth, I'm going to search for these words in italics because that's going to help me see. They're going to pop out of the page. Excuse me. They're going to pop off the page and you're going to be able to see them, and it's going to let you read the information around, and you're going to find answers to questions that way. So pay attention to these words that are in italics. Okay. Our next words are in bullet points. We're going to be using bullet points a lot over the next few weeks. Bullet points also indicate lists of words, phrases, or sentences that are related to an overall topic. Bullet points often indicate just a list. Notice it doesn't have to be complete sentences. It's just lists of words. The dots, so the dots beside the words, are often used to introduce a new item to the list. So the dot tells me we've left frogs, we're moving on to toads. We're done with toads, we're moving on to newts. Those dots tell me it's a new point on my list. Take a second and go fill in your companion. So not all bullet points are dots. Some people like to use check marks. When I'm making a list of things for myself, for me to do, especially, I'll often use boxes because then when I'm done with it, I can go check it off in the boxes. Sometimes they use arrows. I've seen all sorts of things, little stars, or it just whatever, any kind of symbol that indicates you're moving on to the next piece of information. Finally, we're going to talk about hyperlinks. Hyperlinks don't exist in paper copies that you are reading, not in textbooks that you're reading, because you can't click on paper. Hyperlinks, like this one, it's a digital link and it takes you to another location, such as a website or to a video or to a form you have to fill out. So a hyperlink is a digital, that word's important, digital link that takes you to another location such as a website. Go fill in your companion, please. All right, finally, the last text feature we're going to talk about today is a text box. We have our arrow that's pointing out the text box here. Here is our heading. Here is our text. I see some bold words, and here is our text box. A text box is a box. That's amazing, right? How hard is that going to be to remember? A text box is a box with additional information, usually written in sentence form. So it's text on its own. This text box is saying, did you know? And they're giving us additional information. So this is a box with additional information written in sentence form. A text box contains information that is interesting, but not essential for the reader to know. In other words, you don't have to know it to understand the rest of this article. It's just some more interesting information that the reader might want to know. So it is interesting, not essential. Pause this and go fill out your companion guide. Those are all of the text features we're going to discuss today. I need you to make sure that once you have completed your companion guide, you actually click turn it in so that I can give you a grade for watching today's video and getting all of the answers on your companion guide. I also need you to go find the text feature day 2 review assignment. It's not long, but I do need you to complete that today. These should be easy 100 days. This week should definitely, or this unit should definitely help your grade improve. If you get stuck on something, please send me an email or ask for help. I am always happy to help you.